All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to a new sharing session in the Good Use of AI series. It's actually a series where we already had some previous editions. I recognize some of you joined for example, the sessions around the generative AI stack explained on the various layers. And we also had for the Romanian colleagues two sessions about AI in business with business leaders, tech leaders joining us to share how they actually use AI in their organization and not, have this LinkedIn or YouTube or Substack hype that's been flooding our information flows for the past 3 years. So today we're hosting this sharing session dedicated to the activity of facilitating AI adoption. Okay, so we won't be getting into the technicalities of various AI tools and things like this, but look from this organizational and people lens to the topic of AI adoption. Joining me today as my co-host is my colleague and co-mentor on the topic of facilitating AI adoption in the International Association of Facilitators mentoring program, Raluca Păduraru, future of work strategist and with a passion of actually understanding and helping people develop agency related to AI usage, and Raluca will share a bit in a moment. And myself, I'm working in strategy in the tech sector, and of course, AI is a big topic. We'll have some detailed bio slides in a moment, but just as a heads up, as you know, these kind of sharing sessions are quite informal. So, of course, we prepared some sharing points for you to discover and maybe to connect to your own practice. But then we'll have this conversation, ask us anything, but also maybe you can contribute from your experience, because based on what I know, many of you already have experiences, challenges. You're already working on this topic. And so the flow will be around 20 minutes of sharing on Raluca's side with some specific questions, 20 minutes of sharing on my side, and then around 30 minutes of free flow discussions, Q&A, and these kind of things. Hope we'll have a useful and valuable 1 hour and 15 minutes. So, Raluca, welcome, and let's get into sharing. If you have any questions or reflections or resources, please do share in chat while Raluca is sharing, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Bülent. Hello, everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces and nice to see some new faces as well. And as Bülent was saying today, we will both share from our experience of facilitating AI adoption and implementation. However, it would be useful for us if you could write down or speak up your questions so that we might have a dialogue or even a conversation. That would be extremely nice. And that being said, I will start my side of the sharing. And as Bülent was mentioning, we do have some bio slides. I am a Futures of Work strategist, a co-founder of Upvance Global. I've spent almost 2 decades of experience working with organizations and with teams to develop teams and adults as well. I have worked as a manager in several big organizations here in Romania as well as in Europe, a bit in Asia as well. And in the past 4 years, I have focused 100% on facilitation. So I am what they call a solopreneur right now, which means that I work by myself, paying my own paycheck, and I do have some wonderful collaborations such as the one with Bülent, where we try to build on each other's know-how. And I have facilitated so far over 800 hours of AI and futures related workshops in big organizations as well as small companies, in leadership teams as well as production teams. My focus for this year is to build AI agency, as Bülent was saying. Basically, I view my role as where education, foresight, and technology meet. And my mission in life is to help organizations build this kind of AI agency, which I define as being the combination between judgment and action. So basically, it's important to be able to judge what is happening around us, to be present in our lives, to draw some conclusions for that. However, that means nothing if we are not able to put them into action and to turn those insights into decisions and those decisions into steps moving forward. So both of those are very, very important so that we don't end up in an overthinking loop, but also in a hamster wheel where all we do is act without actually getting anywhere. And from my experience, what I have noticed is that when it comes to AI implementation in organizations, there are a few things which work and a few things which don't. Usually, organizations tend to do the things that don't work, which means that this is a huge improvement opportunity for us to step in and kind of help with that. So the biggest thing that I see, and it doesn't work, is that organizations tend to treat AI as an IT project. And they hand the ownership or the sponsorship over to the CTO, and they are tasked with, okay, implement AI in the organization. So what happens next is that the AI team feels frustrated that they need to facilitate something they don't know how to. They do what they usually do, which means they create a set of instructions, they send that over by email, they expect everyone to read the email, and then job done. AI is implemented. But what actually happens is that most of the people don't even read the email, and the people who read the email have this kind of mixed emotions. Some of them might be fearful, some of them might be too conscious to try, others might fear that they will be judged because they are using AI. So at the end of it all, when you look back on it, you end up with less than 5% adoption in the whole organization. Another thing that organizations tend to do and doesn't work is en masse training. Like everyone go to the AI training, 2 hours, where someone explains what is a large language model and how to prompt. And then, okay, job done, AI implemented. This is also not okay for the same reasons as above, you know. First of all, AI implementation is a change management process, which basically means that it needs to have several follow-ups. And probably the most important side of change management is the reinforcement process, where you actually stay with the people and help them discover what they can do and how to do it better. So what happens when we do this en masse training is that half the people don't understand what is happening, and the other half are like, yeah, okay, I could have gotten this from Coursera in like 45 minutes. I didn't need to look at the emails piling up in my inbox while I have to sit through this. And we have seen this before with GDPR. So I hope that we will be stopping this and not doing the same mistakes over and over again. Another thing that organizations try is plug and play, treating AI as a plug and play project. So we've purchased Copilot licenses for everyone. Now everyone enjoy it and use AI. And what happens is, again, a mix of fear, a mix of confusion, and most of the people don't do anything with it. Another trend, which is kind of concerning, and I've seen this already in huge organizations such as Accenture, is that they are trying to force people to use AI as part of assessments. And not even in the right kind of way. So not like placing in the assessment KPI such as create a project with AI. No, it's the number of times that you log into AI each day, which of course is senseless. It doesn't achieve anything except cause frustration and make people find ways to fool the system. You know, like when we are tracking mouse movements, and people have learned to tie their mouse to the cat's tail, sort of speak, so that they bump that. It's the same here. And another thing which ties into this is to apply pressure, like go into the team and apply a lot of pressure. You have to do this. This is what we have to do. People who will not adopt AI will be fired. And this is a trend which is being enforced by several billionaires right now. Like the NVIDIA CEO has been saying on camera very many times that people who don't use a certain number of AI tokens should be fired. And it's the same for Meta. Meta is right now firing several thousand people, and it seems from the whistleblowers that the biggest criteria for firing them is how many tokens they used up, and they are firing the people who don't use enough, what they call enough. I don't know how they defined that it is enough. So this doesn't work. And whoever has done any kind of change management in the past knows this, because AI implementation is change management. It's nothing more. But what does work, in my experience, is to correctly define what's in it for me for each kind of function in the organization. So what might be in it for the HR admin person if they adopt and implement AI in their job? What might it be for the HR recruiter? What might it be for the HR manager, and so on? So for each kind of function in the organization, you should have a different what's in it for me, and this one should be addressed and communicated as the main benefit for AI adoption. This means it's a lot of work for the managers, right? Because the managers should know their teams. You can't find the what's in it for me if you don't know your team. They should also know the work that the team does, and this is also a kind of a black box for many managers. And they should also be able to tie this in with enough AI fluency that they understand where AI might help. So it's a lot of work to do and define this correctly, but it is one of the biggest wins that we can do. Another thing is to use locally available ambassadors. So this means that if someone is enthusiastic about AI, someone that these people actually work with, not someone from a conference stage or on a YouTube video, someone they can touch, someone they know, then those kind of ambassadors can do wonders in increasing the hype and in increasing in tying in with the what's in it for me for each and every person. Usually 3 to 5 ambassadors are enough to improve the AI adoption in a 250 people organization. And this is also a change management principle, so I won't insist. Then another thing which I have already implemented 9 times in 9 different organizations, and each time it was a huge hit, is to create a physical sandbox, like a space with a ritual. Like each Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. we meet and we discuss what we tried with AI and it didn't work, or what we tried with AI and it did work. And this is basically a safe space where people can come and find out what others are doing, inspire themselves, and also share what they are doing. It's a space for play, basically. But this has to be organizationally enforced. So it has to be top down, and leadership needs to be behind this. And people need to understand that when they enter that safe space, nobody is judging them. There won't be any repercussions for anything that is going on there. And of course, you should be having a facilitator for these meetings, because otherwise, due to different levels of experience and different levels of commitment from people, there might be endless discussions. So a facilitator should be involved in this. External, internal, doesn't really matter so long as it's someone good. Then another thing which works in my experience is to create real use cases around existing pain points. So this is the way which I implement AI in organizations. First of all, I do a needs analysis with the team which is about to enter the workshop. And based on what they tell me is the biggest pain point in their job, I design several use cases which they implement during the workshop. So by the end of the workshop, they have not only learned about AI, but they have also figured out how to actually use it to solve some very real problems. This means that the engagement and the enthusiasm by the end of the session is through the roof. So this means that most of these people will become ambassadors, which you can then use in order to propagate in the organization. And all of this, everything I spoke about so far is about psychological safety. So this is like the net which contains everything, and without it, there is nothing. If people aren't safe enough to experiment, if people are being judged for using AI or for not using AI, or for everything in between, the process cannot really move forward as fast as it would with psychological safety. So that was about the process itself. But moving forward, when we are looking at AI readiness, basically what I see is that there are two types of AI readiness. There is individual readiness, and then there is organizational readiness. And in my experience, what happens is that the individual, not all of the individuals, but some individuals are much more ready for the change than the organization that they are in. And this is another huge bottleneck, because these people kind of get frustrated. Everything is holding still for them. They feel like they have to live in a different century because the organization is failing to adapt. So this means that a lot of organizations are losing talent right now because they don't acknowledge these people and they don't create spaces for these people to experiment. So we are going to stay in the individual and then move to the organizational. When I look at the individual, I see 4 different levels of AI savviness, I would say. Basically, the first level is conscious explorer. This is when we are starting to move from fear towards curiosity, and this is the first step. So if we don't feel curiosity, there is no way that we can move down this ladder and actually build, which means that fear is a huge blocker. I'm insisting on this a bit because it ties into something that I will say later. Then the second level is about practicing, like, okay, I'm starting to see some time saved. I'm starting to see how this fits into a workflow. I'm starting to see how this augments my job. This is already huge progress. And most of the people in Romania have not reached this level, unfortunately. However, probably in the western side of Europe, we are in a much better position. Then the third level is about architecting, orchestrating workflows. This is when people are already starting to build systems. They are mentoring other people. They are showing other people how to augment their own work. And the final level is about recreating the processes from start with AI in mind. In my experience, these kind of people are very, very rare right now, and except for some spearheads, we can't really rely on this. So I would count that most people are here, level 1 or level 2. Yeah, and some of the people from level 2 are working towards level 3, of course. Then the organization, regardless of what the people in the organization are on these kind of levels, I noticed that there are 3 axes which basically predict where an organization is on the readiness level. So the first is the rhythm, and this is about people and tools. Because in order to be ready for this kind of adoption, you have to be able to experiment. You have to have this mindset of iteration, of continual growth, of Kaizen, and so forth. Then you should also have a calendar, like a milestone, let's say, calendar, or even a Gantt chart, something which shows you, okay, where am I right now? Where do I want to be in 2, 3, 5 months? Then it helps for rhythm if we have this kind of show and tell sessions, the sandbox, which I was mentioning earlier, as well as some KPIs. So it's important to measure. And it's important because we know that we get whatever we measure, right? So if we measure how many times someone logs into Copilot, then this is what we will get. We will get people logging into Copilot. But that means that that doesn't really mean that it will bring organizational value, because I can log into Copilot and ask, what should I cook for dinner, and then I can log back again in 6 minutes and ask, why is my cat losing hair? Yeah, right. So I can do these kind of things all day long and bring nothing to the organization. So the KPI should be something which I want to get, right? Should be a behavior which I want to see. Then the second X is about structure, and this is about systems and tools. We should have roles, right? So job descriptions are changing, or they should be changing, which means that we should be evaluating those job descriptions. We should be seeing how roles are evolving and creating new ones to fit where we are trying to get. Then there should be, except for the physical sandbox, there should also be like a virtual sandbox, where we can actually test things before going to production. And okay, for the more technical people here, this is like but for the non-technical people, this is groundbreaking, because we are not used to working into sandboxes. We are not used with user acceptance testing and so forth. And this is a mindset that should propagate throughout the organization right now. We should be creating policies, right? Which kind of processes do we want to use AI into? Which kind of processes are sacred and we don't want AI there? Where should we have the human in the loop? Where is the objective? What is the objective of automizing this kind of processes? And where do we draw the line? These kind of policies should be created right now, and they also should be communicated to people, so that everyone knows and isn't afraid to use AI in the right way. And the third X is about judgment, which is also about people and tools. And this means basically when you are ready on the judgment axis, it means that you know how to implement AI, you know when to do it and when not to do it, and how to check that you are doing a good job. And this is, if you are going to be checking, Anthropic, for instance, has a lot of materials, free materials on this. They have a matrix, which is called the 4D matrix, which is a great resource that helps on the judgment axis. And it's completely free and very easy to implement. And the main thing that I want, so I didn't say the word data so far at all, but even the European Commission, in its most recent report on the topic, basically said that without data readiness, there is no AI readiness. So if we have 24 different data warehouses with 23 different ways of measuring a KPI and 6 people arguing over which data is correct, there is no way that AI is going to figure out which data is correct, right? So this means that the number of errors in reporting will increase instead of decrease, because AI does not have human judgment. So it's very, very important to get our data in order before we think about implementing AI. Thank you, Bülent, for linking the 4D framework. Okay, so there's a lot of talk that a lot of AI implementation is failing or are failing, and it's true. McKinsey is saying that 95% of them are failing. If you actually read the report, you see that it's not so dramatic, and actually they are talking about even people who are considering not already implementing. So the number is not really 95, it's probably more around 70. But a recent report by Stanford said that out of those implementations which fail, they checked around 2,000 companies in the US, and they noticed that 77% of those AI implementations that failed due to one of these reasons. Planning, so we don't plan enough, which means we don't implement the change as we want it to be. The processes are left behind and they are not aligned with AI, which means that it's very easy for people to forget that AI should have been implemented. There's a lack of mapping of where should AI help us in this kind of process, and I will show you a way to map in the coming minutes. And then the main two blockers are actually about people and fear. So people are fighting AI adoption as much as they can because they don't have the psychological safety to think that their job is protected. So there's this ongoing trend on Reddit in particular, but not only, where a lot of people are saying that they are asking me to train these kind of skills for AI, and I'm training the machine all wrong because I don't want my job to be replaced. So much as like the Luddites were fighting the Industrial Revolution, right now we also have a huge group of people fighting this AI revolution. So expect this kind of blockages from people, especially if you're not working in a psychologically safe space. And from this, of course, fear is another main blocker. So even the people who don't resist the change per se are kind of fearful about it. They don't want to lose control. They don't want to lose their identity as a professional, because you know that we are being trained from young kids to think that our identity is our job. So it's normal to feel fear that some of your job is going away to AI, even if in the long run that might be better. And also there is this thing called the J curve, which is not accounted for. The J curve basically means that when we start adopting something, first there is a decrease, in the productivity, and then there is an increase, kind of forming the letter J. So people don't take into account this dip. And when the managers see that the productivity is decreasing, they stop the adoption. Like instead of pushing through it until people get comfortable with it, they just stop it. So this is another huge point of failure. So I was mentioning that one of the reasons is the lack of mapping. And here is an example of value stream mapping for AI adoption. So this is an actual client of mine. It's an architecture design studio, boutique architecture design studio. And basically, they had this quoting process. Yeah, this is what their quoting process looked. Creating an offer basically could take between 12 hours and 18 hours, depending on how complex it was. It would be very inconsistent. There would be a lot of repetitive moves. There would be a lot of manual moves, and there would be a lot of errors along the way, because it would be basically a huge Excel file, and imagine one sheet for each kind of type of product. So one sheet for the furniture, one sheet for the electrical, one sheet for the wires, one sheet for, I don't know, bathroom stuff. When there were office buildings, you can imagine that there could be like 20, 25 worksheets. And the architect was supposed to go through each of them and fill in the products, the descriptions, the pricing, the discounts, the everything. And at the end, of course, summarize it and send the offer to the client. And what happened was a lot of time wasted. So what we did was we implemented AI. We did this value stream, right? Just to see the process and see how it looked. And then we thought, how might it look with AI? And this is what it is actually happening right now in production. Basically, from 12 to 18 hours, we ended up with a maximum 4 hours for each offer. And most of it is automated. Most of it is happening without any human input. However, we did keep the human input here in the first phase, where we discuss with the client and we take the needs. And then in the final or last to final step, where we have the review, okay, let's check everything is correct. The AI didn't miss anything. The AI didn't hallucinate anything, and so forth. And just, send it to the customer. So this is like a very simple example of how a company gained probably around 1 week per month, which is huge for a company made of, I don't know, 15 people, just by looking at the process, how it was, and value stream mapping it into a future state. So whoever is working with lean tools is familiar with the value stream mapping. If you are not, I will be placing a link in the chat as Bulent is sharing, because this is it from me. Thank you.
Nice, thank you, Raluca. So maybe we take a few minutes for any questions, reflections, curiosities. Of course, with Raluca, what we've done to prepare for this session was to select from examples and the things that we're doing, and we've been fighting for 4 mentoring sessions. So it's a very short version of. So any questions?
Yeah, I think I have.
Please, Alex.
Yes. First of all, thank you. Like it was really informative, and maybe it's direct question, maybe it's a little bit stupid question, but I will ask it in any case. What do you think? It's because I saw like a lot of AI adoption like steps and what can be done in organization. But what do you think it's the best way to approach this AI adoption inside the organization uh, in the company which never used like it's not even technological company, it's not even IT company. What do you think? How to better maybe some suggestion as a first step, like how to approach this so that people inside this organization who sometimes are like 50 years old, 60 years old, will like facilitate and will maybe will like maybe use in some ways this tool, this really useful tool. If you have some maybe idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for the question. It's a very good one. And most of the companies I work with are exactly in this kind of scenario. So they are not tech companies. The profiles of work that I and Bulent do are similar and different at the same time, because he tends to work with corporate high-tech organizations, while I tend to work with smaller non-tech organizations. So I've even implemented AI in a oțel, how do you say oțel? Steel, in a steel producing company in Romania, like the so I am familiar with what you're saying, and there is a huge fight back against AI in these kind of companies, especially since the profile of the employees working here are basically people who have been on the same role doing the same job for several decades, 10 years plus anyway. So I would start, and I do start, by talking with them, by having this kind of needs analysis where I involve the people which are about to go through the change. So I don't do needs analysis with the leadership team, because they have no idea what the people are thinking. I do this needs analysis with the people themselves. And I ask, okay, so how is your job? What does your day look like? Where do you think you might save some time? What do you hate about your job? And then I start building those use cases, and I build them 100% for them, exactly from their pain points. Because then when they see that they have a real stake in this, and that if they do their best in the workshop, and if they actually pay attention, they might be able to solve this actual pain point that they experience day in and day out, then they are on board and they love it. And I have had this kind of results even with 60-plus-year-olds women who barely touch their laptops.
Yeah, so I'm very inspired by Raluca when she shares with me all these examples. So
yes.
and Isa, you had a question, and then Kata, please. Isa, if you want to share it live.
Yes, sorry. So you gave the example with the value stream mapping, and I observed there the standardized internal coefficient things. What do you do when the company is far from having the data cleaned up and structured enough to actually be able to do those internal standards?
Great question, Isa. Unfortunately, it's more common than we like to believe. And I would start by cleaning up the data. Yeah, so that's the first step. Like the European Commission was saying, without data readiness, there is no AI readiness. And instead of building AI on top of chaos, I would prefer to build it on top of something super stable. So just like clean it off. Like a house, you cannot paint the wall and behind it, it's mold. Yeah, it doesn't work. The mold will go through eventually. So AI usually amplifies whatever it is being built on. So if we build AI on top of chaos, we will have more chaos. If we build it on top of structure, then we might get more structure. So it's really important.
And if the cleanup means that you're left with almost no data, reliable one.
Then that's actually a good start. Because you can actually use AI to measure the right kind of data and to build the history with it together. Yeah, so it's actually safer to build it with no data than bad data.
Thank you.
Kata or Vero? I'm not sure.
Should I go first?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Raluca. Very, very interesting stuff. And I've resonated a lot with the psychological safety part, what you mentioned there about having people feeling safe to explore. And I really like the levels, what you said about like AI readiness for individual and organizational level. And I'm curious from your experience, like how do you balance these two? Because even like systems and organizations are built by individuals. So if they're not ready, if they're not at a certain level, then the systems that they will build will mirror that. So how do you balance these two dimensions?
So that's a very good question. So I would say that right now, at least in Romania, so I can speak for the western side of Europe, but in Romania, and I am willing to bet that in Bulgaria, Hungary as well, people are much more ready to implement AI than the organization itself is. So we see this in a lot of studies as well, because at least here, the AI adoption rate for organization is around 5%, while the individual AI adoption rate is above 20%. Around 80% of people are saying that they are using AI even when it's not mandated by the company. So this shows that people are more ready for AI than organizations themselves are, which means that people are going to start to do stuff. Yeah, whether the organization wants it or not, they will start to do stuff. This means that data is becoming unprotected. Yeah, because if I am using my own personal Claude account to parse through reports of finance results from the first quarter of 2026, then that means that the organization is exposed. And if, as an organization, I am not doing anything, not to stop this, because there's no way to stop this, but I'm not doing anything to educate people and to give them the tools that they need to do their jobs better, this means that I will experience one of two things. Either one, people will leave and go to an organization which is more ready to adopt AI, or people will sneak around and find ways to cheat and expose my data. So I'm not sure if the individual is the problem right now. I would say that my bet is that the organizations are the problem in most cases. But to tackle your question as well, maybe it's important to create these kind of sandboxes with the ambassadors, like the ambassadors should come and show and tell maybe twice a month how they are doing, what they are doing. And this will build momentum because people will show up out of curiosity. And then they will get excited. And then that excitement might turn into action. So this is a very good way to start a snowball, which rolls down the mountain and creates the proverbial avalanche.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vero.
So thank you so much from my side as well. I have two questions. One of them is, out of your experience, what are the top interests of the leaders during the AI adoption from the companies that you've been to? I'm curious how the leadership is interested in adopting it? It's a very general question, of course. But,
it's a very interesting one.
Okay.
I'm going to be curious what prompted it, but I'm not sure we have.
Yeah, I can tell you what prompted it.
But so owners have two kind of reactions. One of them is that they are scared, and they are scared that they are losing the wave. Yeah. So a lot of requests are coming like, oh, we want to implement AI. And I ask why. And they go like, oh, because everyone is doing it. That's not a valid point to move forward, but they want to do it nonetheless. And the second one is about money. So they are trying to find ways to either increase the revenue, and this is more rare, but main focus is about reducing costs. So how do I survive this crisis, reducing costs? If there is time, let's check what might we create to create new revenue streams. But yeah.
What triggered it is that I would like to create this type of sandbox for leadership as well inside my company. And for the first sessions, I want to make them impactful, right? Because if the first session will be not so powerful, right, then they will lose interest, and that will be a complete, because we are doing lots of things in terms of execution, developer experience, we are quite advanced. But when it comes to leadership, to tech leaders, they are all over the place, and I want just to bring them in a sandbox.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking you, because I'm looking for inspiration to really tackle, the most important stuff. And the second one is regarding how a very popular one. How do we measure the adoption? Yeah.
So I will share on the chat a picture that Bülent, I think, shared with me. I'm not sure, but yeah, someone shared, about 20 KPIs of AI adoption, and I think that they are spot on. And I would add, just to keep it very, very short, I would add that I would stay away from KPIs such as the number of anything. So I would stay away from this and rather focus on how is the job changed, how is the revenue stream changed, how are we evolving as a company or as a department or as a team, things like that, about transformation, right, instead of accounting KPIs. So here is the photo in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
so, Bülent, would you like to?
Yeah, so I will also share in the chat a recorded session from Leaders in Tech. So there I myself are in the leadership team of that community, and we in the same idea of ambassadors sharing good practices, emerging practices, and inspiring other people. Through these communities, like we're doing a bit today as well. We can do this at the ecosystem level between companies, because it's interesting to find out what the other team is doing, but it's also interesting to find out what people in other organizations are doing, whether they are similar with yours or not. So I put this in chat as well. Hope I got the link right. And you'll see senior leaders actually, from Google, Microsoft, and Adobe. And I'm doing this intro because in the limited time that we have left for the sharing session, and maybe we'll continue. And also, if you have things to share, do let us know, myself or Raluca, and we'll create the space for sharing. I wanted to share with you about readiness. So I continued, because Raluca, you shared with us about the various facets of readiness. I will continue sharing some readiness examples from some companies. Just a sec. Okay, so in a nutshell about myself, I'm working on strategy mainly, also foresight, high-stakes projects, difficult projects in the Romanian tech sector. I'm helping with with those for some of my client organizations. And of course, due to the fact that these generative AI technologies are the new general purpose technology of the decade, I had to focus on the intersection of change with applied AI, hosting meets like this one, good use of AI, AI in business, generative AI stack explained, mentoring with Raluca, in leadership tech that I mentioned, and I also started doing this research in public, a Substack on AI adoption, mini WhatsApp channel on AI for business, and something with examples on AI day to day. And I wanted to share with you about these examples of readiness. And actually, this one is from the sharing session from Leaders in Tech from the vice president of Adobe, my former colleague Dragos, Georgica, who shared this very interesting tool that might inspire you as well, of having a self-assessment for teams. Of course, this comes from software engineering, but it can be developed for sales teams, HR teams, marketing teams, finance teams, and other types of teams, of self-assessing where you stand in terms of AI maturity across the various areas of activity for that team. For the purposes of software engineering, what I liked is that they defined this 3 level of basic, intermediate, and advanced for the 4 areas in software engineering: architecture and design, development and coding, testing and quality, and code review. So basically, with your team, you can go and assess yourselves on these 4 aspects. Where do you stand? With very clear, let's say, references. What does basic, I don't know, let's go to development and coding. What does basic mean of using AI in your work? Like individual developers use AI-assisted code completion, Copilot, Cursor, these kind of things without broader code-based context. Prompts are vague. AI generates less than 10 lines of code at a time. Okay, so basic level at this moment in time in this specific company, but you can also see advanced. So like the advanced teams on this aspect of software engineering. Agents given high-level goals, auto-generates planning artifacts, human validates, then AI executes across multiple files, workflows force AI to output a plan before generating code, spec-driven development, team writes proposal and specs, AI generates design, implementation, tests, and documentation. You know, so these kinds of examples that can help teams orient their adoption journey and integrating these AI or AI-powered tools in their day-to-day work. And of course, for architecture and design, there are similar things like for advanced living context system, so very advanced context engineering at team level with multiple specialized files, active context, tech depth, product evolution, and so on. Spec-driven development, AI agents review proposed architecture changes, and so on. You know, so this is like an example of course, an advanced organization in terms of using AI in some of their functions, but the essence of creating a tool, and it's not hard to create once you have this clarity that Raluca also mentioned, of being clear on what a specific level means in your organization. To vibe code, actually it was a vibe coding tool internally in Adobe, to vibe code such as a self-assessment tool, which is not linked to Raluca's points about performance. It's not linked to performance management, so it's a learning tool for those teams, and it's not like, okay, your basic, intermediate, basic, you'll get a low performer evaluation for that team. No, it's more like to orient yourself where you stand compared to a reference point in the organization. And also what I found interesting is that you can also get, besides some curated resources of agentic development and context engineering and this kind of stuff, you also get recommended teams inside the organization that you can reach out to that are more advanced on that aspect and that you can learn from. So encouraging this peer-to-peer inspiration and collaboration, and let's say ambassador teams, if we are to evolve the concept of ambassadors from individual to teams. So these more advanced and enthusiastic teams to be able to spread knowledge, but also inspiration and actual learnings with others. Please, Vera.
So Bülent, funny fact, and just to see how things are evolving, we copied this tool due to the fact that it was presented to us and during that session. Razvan, we're going to share it with you, our own tool, basically, with this model in mind. Because we learned from Adobe for that session, and we implemented a little bit different than Adobe did.
Of course, you have another context, but
yeah.
Yeah, so Vera, this is truly inspiring in the sense that, you know, once you get the essence of a tool, that it helps teams orient and get inspired, and also peer-to-peer learning and support, you can adapt, use that tool for your own context. And of course, as I said, not necessarily software engineering or technical teams. This can be this kind of tool that helps with readiness, can be adapted for other teams. Good. Okay, so this is one example. And another example is from this other insight between the connection between readiness and adoption and usage, actually. So this was from Florin from Orange that I shared the YouTube recording in chat. So the interesting thing is that they measured both readiness and usage of their internal tool, their internal AI assistant, Dino2, and they've learned from the discrepancies, for example, between the various functions that are represented here. Like for example, this idea that in IT, for example, readiness and tool usage is very close. It's with no gap, but there are some functions where, even though, you know, the people in that function are saying, okay, this is cool, we understand its value, positive impact, and things like this, the usage is not there yet. So this kind of course, we're discussing about the essence here. The essence is that this kind of tools can help you, for example, facilitate AI adoption specifically in some parts of the organization. If you get these distinctions between readiness and actual usage. With I also like the how they raised the questions. So this was embedded in their annual engagement survey that is run at group level. I believe that AI will have a predominantly positive impact on my field of activity in the coming years. So this is related to what is called in the emerging literature emotional trust, in the sense that, you know, we're talking about trust in AI and in using AI, but we can use this model of emotional trust and functional trust. Functional trust is that how Raluca was mentioning, that I'm seeing the tool actually solve a pain point, and I gain confidence that it's something useful. So functional trust. At the same time, what is my emotion? What is my let's say emotional reaction to the idea of more and more AI adoption? Is it more towards predominantly positive impact, or is it more towards fear, anxiety, and other emotions in that part of the spectrum? Because if you look like 2 by 2, you can have I didn't put this yet, but you can have high emotional trust with high functional trust, but also the other variations. Functional, of course, this is the ideal, let's say, for AI adoption purposes, but you also have low high and low low. So this kind of variations, and in the emerging literature of AI adoption that I was mentioning, that I'm researching, there is this idea of adjusting your change management approaches and the activities through which you help the people, the colleagues, based on these four categories. And this is just a lens. So this is the initial set of examples that I wanted to share with you, related to readiness, related to what Raluca shared with us about the various readiness aspects. And all right, and I also wanted to share with you the messiness in the reality in organizations. Like Raluca mentioned, okay, in various companies, from various industries, from various with various business challenges and things like this. Of course, we can learn about principles and about emerging practices, that some of them get to the good practices that Raluca shared with us. What we also, as facilitators of the AI adoption, internal, external, or such, we need to take into account a lot the actual context. And I put here just one pager from a large organization to share with you the kinds of factors that might help or block the AI transformation program, or AI adoption, or AI integration. So this is from like the scoping talk for that kind of program. So yeah, it's aligned with a bigger business strategy, but at the same time, there are these multiple speeds that we need to take into account, that are also linked to what Raluca shared about those four levels, but also the operational speeds. Let's say some parts of the organization have a different speed in working and in adopting and in changing. So and also there is this facet, especially in Romania, with lots of multinationals, between group and local. Some things might happen at the headquarters in I don't know what Western country, but there's another speed locally. Then across businesses and functions. And of course, there is this question of autonomy. Some of you asked about developing AI solutions. Okay, what is the level of autonomy we have in the organization, in the local organization in this case, to be able to develop specific solutions? Of course, as Raluca was mentioning, I'm more into the corporate side. So as a small and medium business owned locally, you have autonomy to develop solutions for your own business, but in this multinational context, you have lots of constraints and lots of things to pay attention to, lots of wider roadmaps that are not necessarily aligned, and this kind of messiness. Of course, then you might not know, we discussed about readiness, to the point that Raluca also made about what the business is concerned about. Okay, so are we doing AI adoption only because we don't want to miss the train, or are there specific business needs from the various business units in the company portfolio that are clear enough to link AI adoption activities to help progress towards the business results? Okay, so there's these other things for which this in this organization was unknown because the business unit leaders didn't have clarity yet. Then there's the question of capabilities. So of course, because this needs technical prowess on some stuff, and also of course some other capabilities in compliance, governance, and all this kind of stuff. What can we count on? And for this, there are of course tools like capability mapping, capability heat map, to be able to have a clear perspective on what are the actual capabilities and the ability to execute on them. I didn't bring, Raluca, the whole sheet of the whole plethora of business functions that are involved in AI transformation programs at corporate, but there is this question of capability. Okay, do we have internal capability, or do we need to partner with some external entities, or do we borrow some capabilities from the group, from the headquarters, or is it shared in any way? So this kind of questions, and then from this example of the reality on the ground, also, okay, do we have a proper setup to offer coherence for all the activities across this large entity, so then we can move with clarity and speed? Or is it like it has been in many organizations, various pilots sponsored by various leaders that suffered from FOMO, and now there is this discrepancy across the organization, and of course missing policies. Of course, maybe we learned about GDPR, but some years ago, but we don't have policies in place. We don't know how to create policies, or the policy people at the headquarters are busy for other more revenue generating countries, so these kind of things. And then there's also this, especially in organizations, in industry with lots of changes and lots of adaptations, the change saturation aspect. So you're expecting people to go through, do these new change management activities, whether they are, you know, these nice sandbox happenings, or traditional trainings, or participating to department-wide activities. Well, they need to do lots of things on their plate. So, and they need to also do other changes, so change saturation, and many things like this. So I wanted to give you this this perspective of the messiness across organizations. And of course, with all this messiness, there's also this need of having a clear vision. So for example, with these people here, I asked them, okay, so if you want to mobilize yourselves at the national level in your Romanian entity, so by the start of 2027, what will you see in the what do you want to see in the organization? Because we're talking, you know, about KPIs, measuring and all that, but KPIs by definition, because they have that P from performance, they need to be connected to, okay, what does good performance look like? So there is this, because we're talking about facilitation, there is this need for facilitating stakeholder sessions for them to gain clarity on what the desired future looks like. With all the hidden agendas and all the lack of shared perspective, there needs to be, in order to get to like this, where I put it, proper setup that offers coherence, clarity, and speed, you also need to have a bit of alignment and clarity. Okay, what does the near-term future looks like? Please, Millie.
Yeah, I'm stuck with this question for a while now, so I want to kind of put it out, maybe a view of on the what I'm also conflicted. As we are planning these futures, it is evident that this before and after, it's a clear vision that the teams won't look as they are, and there is a clear reduction of when you say reduce costs of the workforce, transformation in the sense of letting people go. How do you approach the conversation with the leads up front to think proactively? How can you assure some kind of view? What does it mean for you as an individual, for your future role, talent, the team org? How do you tackle this kind of conversation so that when you go to the team to work with, you give them some kind of realistic picture while still, trying to provide this psychological safety, but not coating it in sugar that things won't change? Like I see that, when you talk with leaders, there's a clear impact. How to best approach this piece? Like, we know the change is coming and not everybody will be part of the change.
Yeah, so I can share, of course, it's a difficult and very contextual, but I can share a kind of activity that I facilitated in one of the organizations. So it's having this kind of impact and future perspectives workshops with teams. So equip the team leaders to be able to host this kind of conversations that are centered. Of course, there are many unknowns. CEOs don't know, or the shareholders don't know what. But even though there are many unknowns, there are some anchors. There are some go-to stable things that no matter how the AI will impact, some things will continue. For example, the kind of value and the value proposition that the team will need to continue offering to the beneficiaries, like other internal teams or external clients. Of course, the way that value proposition will be created and delivered will probably suffer changes. But for example, in that half-day workshop, part of the workshop was that for people to identify these elements of value that they contribute with, and they as a team to become aware of the value proposition they have been offering and that they will continue offering, even though there will be changes. Like, I don't think anyone is so childish to expect any kind of changes, especially when looking around. But having this adult conversation, look, there are things that we don't know, but there are some things that will surely continue if we are to continue as a business and as an organization. And this idea of value proposition and how everyone is contributing to that value proposition, and anticipating a bit with these emerging practices and these new tools that we have at our disposal, these multi-agent systems and all that, how do we anticipate to continue to provide that kind of value proposition? And then the final question was, how, in which areas do we need to invest as a team and as team members to be able to make good use of these new tools? So this kind of this kind of half-day workshop was very well received, but it's just it's not like I did so many things. It's not like it's a very good practice. It's like just emerging solutions, to this big question that people have and that you asked.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that we in these roles have responsibilities to have these conversations also with the C-level, making these decisions, because like who is going to buy all these projects if you push people into poverty? Like this is a question that I'm staying with. Like they're laying off people, assuming, like for me it's so short-sighted, and I wonder how can we show the value propositions to the C-level who makes the decision. What will that future looks if you reduce the labor to that cost? That is that conversation.
I can share briefly. So there, the strategic foresight field has many useful methodologies and specific methods and tools. And for example, there is this implications map, for which, let's say, you put in there a decision or a type of major change, and then you go not only on the first order implication that we save some money, like like Raluca was mentioning, from the owners of the businesses, but let's think about the second order and third order implications of the major decisions that are on like the strategic decisions with high stakes that are on the table. And also you can complement this kind of present to future activities with these other activities from foresight, like being able to develop some scenarios with and I'm working on this kind of projects with some enlightened decision makers, because many of them are just cutting costs and restructuring companies, developing scenarios based on research, based on, what kind of signals and trends do we see amplified, and what kinds of things and this kind of stuff. And then after exploring those scenarios, coming back and discuss strategy decisions, but having explored those futures. But it's for many decision makers, it's very advanced when their their horizon of concern is next quarter, or I don't know where their bonus is tied with, or their annual incentive plan, or this kind of things. So it's very messy. It's very messy in this period, and that's why with Raluca we said, okay, let's have this sharing session about AI adoption, both sharing some emerging practices, some examples, but also communicating this idea of messiness, for which in messiness, and this is one of my final messages, is in messiness, what helps is to have these lighthouses, is to have these references, these anchors that you can, like this compass that can help you navigate the mess. And for example, in this organization's case, it was this clarity. I appreciated that they aligned themselves. Okay, what will we want to see at the start of 2027 in 4 areas? Of course, data, data foundation, yes, but also in terms of culture and behaviors. And to Raluca's point, yes, how do you measure the uptake of specific behaviors in those specific teams or departments or business units? And this is related to to this post-it here, like progress should be measured through behavior and impact on how work is done, and to have usage metrics only as red flags. Like, for example, if some parts of the organization are not using it at all or minimally, yes, it's a red flag, but not turn it around and put usage KPIs and expecting people to not trick the system, like Raluca was mentioning. You know, so this was my message with this example. And also, of course, by the start of 2027, to have this clear governance and operating model. How do we to work? Because this is actually very hard org design work, you know, on operating model. How do we want the operating model to evolve now that we're discovering these capabilities, the things that we can do with these tools? And also this function level transformation, I just wanted to share with you this idea of transformation partners, you know, like HR business partners in some organizations, or finance business partners like I had in Vodafone, or IT business partners, to have this dedicated transformation partner, which might be an HRBP, but not necessarily, to be able to act like the liaison with that department or business unit or part of the organization. All right, and with
We have sorry, Bulent, we have a couple of questions in the chat, and one is coming from George. For the sake of time, I will read it. AI is not coming on a period of pause for change or transformation processes. Are people tired to jump into a new battle, or just curious?
Yeah, overall, what I'm seeing and what I saw, Raluca, put in chat, I'm also seeing these people tired, and people that some of them made the decision, okay, I need to invest in my own time during evenings and in weekends to develop some skills, because this looks like the new reality of work. So due to the fact that my organization is just offering what LLMs are and how to do prompts, it's very disconnected to where the the reality globally is with these technologies. So many people, what I'm seeing, and also in the communities around me, because I'm part of many communities, is they're investing and burning out because they're doing this extra on besides the job. And very few cases, like I was with Raluca to this company who organized like a program for 100 people with tech, non-tech, with dedicated workshops, with context engineering, using gems in Google, working like a mini hackathon, working on use cases. There are very few examples of companies doing this. And I'm not seeing, related to Florin's question, leadership mindset ready for AI, I'm not seeing, unfortunately, this I don't know, AI readiness in various leadership or senior leadership levels. In the leaders in tech, with the people leading tech organization and teams, I'm encouraging them, if they are doing things, to share, to like to write on Substack, on LinkedIn. But there are very few leaders that are actually doing and role modeling. There are very, very few. Many of them, unfortunately, is like this superficial, you know, just saying the right things, reading and reciting the right reports to be able to be in the conversation in those leadership meetings, but not the essence. Like lots of forme fără fond in Romanian, forms without substance in the leadership areas. But at the same time, I think many of them, especially in middle management, they're seeing signs of changes and middle managers being laid off in various organizations. Like I covered in another newsletter, I covered this very huge transformation program that started before AI. So the buyer, if you want to see details, you can read it here. where they basically, with the intention to reduce costs significantly, they reduce lots of layers in the, I don't see the slide here directly. Yeah, from 12, 13 layers to 6, 7 layers. No, so this, of course, it's just an organization, but they're doing this at the level of 100,000 people. So one of the biggest transformation in the corporate history. And this was before AI. So before the AI agents and all these things that we are discussing now. So yeah.
And then the second question that we had was from Florin. And he was asking, is the AI mindset, is the leadership mindset ready for AI?
Yeah, so I connected a bit with this, but I think, as external helpers, internal helpers, or if we're leading teams, organizations, communities, I think we have this role of, at least making people aware of what is going on in the world. Like I did immediately with the Gen AI stack. I said, look, I don't want to ring the alarm or anything, but just let's try to understand what is happening underneath the user-facing AI tools that we're using. And if you're curious enough, you can see that there's a whole ecosystem underneath with, for example, people being paid, like domain experts being paid like $60, $70 per hour to do this reinforcement learning with human feedback to fine-tune various models. So it's pretty huge. And of course, on our side, as facilitators of AI adoption, both Raluca and myself are not these enthusiastic AI promoters. Look, you need to use AI, you need to use Claude and Claude Cowork and all this kind of stuff. It's like, my friends, we need to understand what is going on in terms of emerging capability, what is going on in the business and organizational context, and to be able to help the people connect these dots, Like Raluca, you mentioned, okay, pain points, and then using AI tools to address those pain points. Very practical, very down to earth. Not mindless adoption, yes.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, so I hope this this sharing session of ours was useful. Thank you for joining us. If you have, like I mentioned, if you have things to share, practices, resources, things like this, please reach out. We don't have a Slack or WhatsApp community or this kind of things to share between the gatherings, but yeah, we will continue. So we discussed, Raluca, to continue this track of facilitating AI adoption. Also, we will invite all our mentees to continue, because tomorrow we have the fourth and final group mentoring session on the topic. And yeah, I feel it's one of the topics where we need to be in touch with others to see how things are evolving, what works, what doesn't, the costs, how the cost question that we didn't tackle, how costs are evolving, whether, I don't know, some organizations are able to get good results with local models, or I don't know, these smaller, cheaper models or open source models that are developing as well. So any closing thoughts, reflections? Yes, every day.
If I may say something.
Please, George.
Yes, so I have come with this idea in my mind that the entire name of the game is about relevance. How relevant I'm going to be as a person, how relevant I'm going to be as a business. And afterwards, after listening to you and your presentation, I think the question is not the question about relevance is not now. It will come afterwards. So it's not relevance in the front of us. Let's see what is going on. It's like a discovery period of time. So I think it doesn't matter how much have we invested in our education. It's a new level of discovery. And the relevance question, even if it stays in our background, is not in front. This is my conclusion after listening to you. Focus energy in what is going on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so George, if I may add a note linked to yours and to Raluca's J curve, what I feel is that together as a humankind, we are going through this J curve that is, of course, manifesting differently across industries, but there will be this that we are also using in change management. You cannot go from the status quo to the desired state just like this, very smooth. No, there is this downturn of performance, of anxiety, of many things that, of course, to be able to minimize the J curve is to do all this kind of sharing together, learning, change management activities that come on the more formal side and things like this. But this is what, and at the business level, because I'm working at business strategy, is this, yes, my CEO and you want continued growth and everything, but yeah, let's think in these scenarios of an actual J curve at humankind level, and how chaos is a ladder. So with this downturn that it's being felt, how can you get better prepared and relevant for the other side in a few years time from now? But there are, as I mentioned, there are very few decision makers, business leaders that think like this, unfortunately.
So I would like to add something here, if I may,
Please,
on
please.
the individual level. So the biggest danger that I see right now is that people become so paralyzed from all of the changes which are happening at the same time, and from all of the chaos which some might say is intentionally being flooded upon us all, that they decide not to do anything at all. And I think that this is like the biggest mistake that any one of us can make, or the shortest road to irrelevance. Because if we kind of lose the edge right now and we get blind spotted by everything that is happening, the risk is that we might not be able to catch up in time. So I really like what Georgia said about, just being present and being aware of what is happening and trying to understand. And I think that it is for us, for each and every one of us who is aware of what is happening and who is educating themselves on this topic, to kind of teach the others, to kind of reach out to the others and show them kindly, without nudging them in a direction or the other, just kind of like opening their eyes and showing them what is happening, and reaching out, giving them a hand in help if they might. So I think that our entire society is going to be defined by how many of us reach out to the others and try to help them move along. Yeah. No man is an island.
All right, so thank you, everyone. I know it was longer than intended. We welcome the emergence and what came from the discussion, and yeah, let's keep in touch. And thanks for joining the first Explain for Everyone. Yeah, yeah. So no worries. So enjoy the week and see you at the next gathering sharing sessions. See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.